So we're very happy to have with us an actual presidential candidate today, who is the nominee of the Libertarian Party, the leading alternative party in the United States by most metrics in terms of number of registered voters, percentage of the vote in recent national elections, et cetera. And we have been having some controversies in our party the last years, and it wasn't clear at all that this year we were going to get a good nominee that I could feel really comfortable about. And so I am so delighted that Chase and his running mate, Mike Termott, got the nomination. I think they're the best ticket that realistically we could have nominated this year. And I think Chase is very supportive of our agenda, and he's been a longtime peace activist even before he was a libertarian, and someone who's been involved in his community where he lives in Atlanta, Georgia, out and gay and outspoken in defending the underdog in a whole bunch of different issues and championing people's rights and freedom. So I'm very happy that he's been able and the campaign's made time for him to be here with us today. Um, go ahead, Chase. And you have, I believe, 10 minutes. Is that correct? And then we're going to take Q&A. Is that right, Maxine? Okay. And you have to unmute yourself, Shay. There you go. Great.
Yeah, thanks. Well, first off, thank you for having me. I want to just kind of start off with where our party stands on sex work and kind of go into my personal experiences so that I can give you guys a little bit of insight as to where I came from. So our party's platform is very short and sweet. We don't get a lot into the weeds. But we do have a platform plank on sex work, which reads, "The Libertarian Party supports the decriminalization of prostitution. We assert the right of consenting adults to provide sexual services to clients for compensation and the right of clients to purchase sexual services from consenting sex workers. Point blank, we believe that your body is your body and you have the right to use it however you want to. Zero judgment here. And frankly, I think much of what we've seen from anti-sex worker legislation, anti-prostitution legislation, is a holdover from the puritanical founding of this country. Like, it kind of comes from a place of this kind of weird moral, whatever kind of Christianity. And I'm a Christian myself. But I'm 100% supportive of sex workers and their rights to do what they want to do with their body and to be protected as much as possible from harm. And much of that has to do with decriminalizing prostitution, because when we criminalize it, you create an entire black market that increases the propensity for violence in that marketplace. And so decriminalization, first and foremost, protects the rights and protects the well-being of sex workers across the country. And that is something that our party has stood for a long, long time. And as its standard bearer in 2024, I will continue to support that notion that people should be able to own their own body, and that an open and free market is a safer market both for the consumer and for the provider. And that includes sex work. It's no different than any other marketplace in that effect. Now, just to give you a little bit of my background, as Starchild mentioned, I am out and gay. I have, I live in the city of Atlanta, and I know many sex workers. I know many people who have been in the industry in the past, are currently in the industry. I worked in gay bars and go-go bars. I know plenty of people who utilize the sex work marketplace to help them survive and to help them thrive in their lives. And they did so as completely consenting and willing participants. So I've also seen the bad side of sex work because of the black market nature of this, where people have been exploited. And unfortunately, law enforcement conflates those two things far too often. And that leads to us not seeing the forest from the trees. It's way harder to treat those who are being exploited when you act as if all people who are entering into sex work are being exploited, which just is not the case. It's not the truth. And it's something that actually harms those who are consentingly and willingly engaging in this marketplace. And it also makes it way harder for those who are being exploited to have their story being brought to light. It makes people more afraid to bring their story to light. And it makes it way harder for us to punish those who are actually doing the wrongdoing of exploiting people and exploiting their bodies and exploiting their labor, just as it is in any other industry. You make it harder for whistleblowers to blow the whistle when you criminalize their behavior. And that's just the plain truth of it. And so, I know people who have worked in varying stages of the industry, from being, a sex worker, working out of the go-go bar, to people who work in pornography, to people who have been professional escorts for years. One of my best friends, first coming out into the gay life of Atlanta, was a professional dom who was the first person who taught me about protecting my drink and making sure that I knew who I was going home with, and understanding like the most safe practices if you're going to be cruising around looking for sex in your 20s, particularly if you're gay. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that somebody who had that relevant experience was there to identify me as somebody who might be taken advantage of and say, here's the way you prevent that, because I'm actually in this industry and I have to do this on a regular basis. So happy that that person's in my life. I do want to give a little anecdote about this campaign. Me campaigning for president, I've traveled to all 50 states. And I was in an event here in Atlanta with a friend of mine who had, he brings everybody across all of gay Atlanta. Every stripe of the rainbow comes to his parties. And so we're there. I'm passing out campaign literature like, hey, guys, I'm running for president. I'm the first LGBTQ candidate that's trying to run all across the country. And a young man walked up to me named Toby, and he asked me a series of questions. And in this series of questions, he just happened to say, well, how do you feel about sex work? And I said, well, if you're an adult, your body is your body. Do what you want to do with it. It's not my job to regulate it. Certainly, I don't think the government's going to best regulate sex work. I think sex workers can best regulate sex work. And I think that's really where that lies. And let's just keep the government the heck out of it, so long as you're not hurting anybody and everybody's consenting, right? Months later, I was at an event in Miami, Florida, and that same young man came to my event, and he kind of outed himself as a sex worker. He's like, I asked you all those other questions, really didn't care so much. I put the sex worker question in the middle of that because I didn't want you to know I was a sex worker. I didn't want you to bias your answer around what I did for a living. But you answered exactly the way you needed to answer. And so I'm coming here to support you. He donated money. He had friends donate money. I recognize the human dignity in all work, sex work being no different. And as a politician, I come from a way more immoral world than any sex worker does. I come from the world of politics, which is far more immoral and far more full of criminals than the sex worker industry. And so I'm somebody who, as I navigate the waters and the extremely immoral and compromised world of electoral politics, I'm going to do my best to represent the values that I think need to be heard. And that involves supporting the bodily autonomy and dignity of all people. And that includes sex workers. And that's why I'm here, is to hear your stories, to hear your insight about what matters to you, and to hear what you think needs to be done at the federal level to decriminalize your industry as much as possible, to remove stigma from your industry as much as possible. And so I'm thankful for the testimony that y'all have provided here. I'm thankful for knowing Star Child, who is a radical activist out there in San Francisco, who is themselves a sex worker, and allowed me to be able to come and speak to this audience. And so I'm just kind of thankful that y'all gave me the opportunity to kind of speak my piece and kind of tell you where I'm coming from. And I hope to earn your vote. If you're in a blue state like California, you can vote for me. Don't feel out of fear. As Star Child said, it's very hard to sway the election with just one vote. And if you're in Alaska, which I know a couple of other panelists have mentioned being up in Alaska, you have a ranked choice ballot. You can put the pro-sex worker candidate first and your lesser of two evil anti-sex worker candidate as your second choice in the ballot, and signify that you want somebody who's going to actually listen to your industry, to listen to the stories that are being told, and actually have some relevant, some friends and colleagues that they know who are in that industry and can get true insight on the ground. So I hope to earn your vote, but I'm going to continue to listen to y'all and answer any questions you have, or if you have any other questions for the panelists, I look forward to them answering it as well, because I think it's an important conversation to have. And as an out and proud gay man, I think we need to destigmatize sexuality as much as possible. It's a human function of just reality for many people. Shout out to my ace friends. We do have asexuals out in the world, but by and large, sexuality is, and even for asexual, sexuality is a part of your identity, whether you practice or not. So, I just want people to destigmatize that as much as possible, support bodily autonomy, and, let people be people. And that's kind of where I come from. But thank you guys for giving me the chance. If you want to check out my website, it is votechaseoliver.com. Go there, check out the platform. We are going to be adding, I hope, sex worker specific language to the platform. In general, it's part of the Libertarian Party platform. We might get a little bit more in depth. And of course, we look forward to hearing maybe some policy language that might need to be added.